jlalala.org.
Jesus' Life World Ministry. The initials for Jesus' Life World Ministry.
.org.
There's a tab for webcasts. So if you go to jlwm.org, there is a tab for webcasts. There's a link there for the PDF for the questionnaire, the application to be a Pharisee, and the video from last night's session.
And I strongly encourage you to fill out the application. Some of you will get the job. If you don't have that capability, to download that, let Shannon know. We have more copies somewhere.
We'll make copies of DVDs.
Okay. All right. Super. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I also want to introduce my friend Colleen Anderson. Yes. Colleen and I have known each other for, I don't know, we met in the airport one time. That's when we met. And she was kind enough to pick me up in Minneapolis and drive me up here and spend the time with me and Shannon and Dan. So bless her and her husband for releasing her to do that with us. Either that or he's going, a weekend alone, So anyway, he's a great guy too. He's a great guy. I think they're going to come back and spend some time up here. I think she kind of fell in love with the territory today. But we had a great tour guide too. So those of you that were with me last night, we're going to kind of do we're going to make a shift in what the presentation. Last night, what was it? Was it fun? Yes. 2 people said yes. Was it fun last night? Yes. Yeah? Okay. Did you think about what we talked about last night about, am I really qualified to be a Pharisee? Are you really qualified to be a Pharisee? Some of us are overqualified. Some of us are overqualified and have kind of wore out our welcome in that camp. That would be me. So as you watch the video tonight or tomorrow, I want you to understand that that's where I came from. So when I teach now and I express myself, I want you to understand God set me free. I'm not going back there. There's a big sign that says, "Do not enter. Danger. You will die if you go back there." So will you. You'll die spiritually. You'll die emotionally. Some of you can die physically if you choose to go back. So tonight we're going to talk about that opportunity that God gives us to be transformed. You realize He does want you saved and transformed. All right, somebody look up 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 23. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 23. Sword drill, who's got it first? It would be good if it was the pastor. Good job.
Now may the God of peace Himself sanctify you completely, and may your whole spirit, soul, and body be preserved blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ.
What does God want to do for you? He wants you to be one clean dude. Body, soul, and spirit. And what happens to your body when you get saved? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I wish all of a sudden, the weight fell off and the teeth were all fixed and the hair was all grown back out. But when you get saved, nothing happens to your body. Now, there will be a day. There will be a day that you get that glorified thing, but right now we got to work with what we got. We got to work with what we've been given. Some of us have more work to do than others. That's all I'm saying. But, and then your spirit is the eternal part that relates to the invisible spirit world. Your spirit can relate to the kingdom of light, and your spirit can relate to the kingdom of darkness. Your choice, where you want to walk. I choose to walk in the spirit of light. I don't like to run into walls. I don't like to stumble. And so in the light I can see. That's where I choose to walk. But your soul is your personality. Some of us have more personality than others. Dan got up, I went out this morning to get a cup of coffee, kind of half awake, and Dan comes out, and he's just... I'm going, what? I live alone. It is very quiet in my house. And I just look at him like, what are you? Where did you come from? He didn't stop. He didn't get the hint. So his personality is much different than mine. But our soul is our mind, our will, and our emotions. I told you a little bit about my story last night and so when I got saved, when I came to know Jesus, my spirit was in line with God. But my emotions were still very broken, very fragmented, if you know what that word means. I was all over the place because my emotions had been wounded, they had been scarred, they had been left, they had been abandoned, they had been left to be abused or misused or whatever you want to call it. You know, you don't need to know all my dirt, but they were a mess. Nobody knew what color of eyes I had because I would never hold my head up because I had so much shame, even after I was saved, because I was so ashamed, because my emotions still were holding on to what had happened. And anytime you hold on to what has happened, you're going to repeat it. Right. You will become what you behold. Whatever you're looking at, that's what you'll become. I'm not going to look at you. I know. I can hear him at my door in the morning. It's time to get up. No coffee today. So when we come to Jesus and our emotions have been wounded, or our personalities have been wounded, it's because they're shaped, our personality, our emotions are shaped from events of our past. And how we view those events will determine our behavior today. And you look at some people and you go, wonder what happened to them. Because they're born again. Their spirit lives in the light. But their emotions are still in a big bag and they're carrying them. Have you ever seen this? An old movie, maybe back from the 80s. I'm sure it was in the 80s, maybe even early 80s, middle 80s, called The Mission. It was about a missionary that went somewhere down in South Africa. And he was a prisoner that they sent down there, and he carried all of his stuff in a bag, and it was baggage. And he was climbing up a waterfall, and if he didn't drop his baggage, he would fall to his death. And one of the guys just reached, and he didn't want to leave it. It was who he was. It's where he had his identity. And one of the guys reached up and he just cut it off of his back. Otherwise, he would have died. And that's what a lot of us do. We carry this emotional stuff with us because it becomes our security. You know, anger can be a god, even as a Christian. Now, I'm not saying you're not a Christian. I'm not saying you're not born again. But what I am saying is that there's some stuff back there that we've got to cut off. And I'm not one of those people that can say, well, I just don't remember. Because I do. I do remember. There's been a lot of things that the enemy hid from me, but nonetheless happened and was causing me to behave, or my personality to come forth in a way that was not godly, even though I was saved. Does that make sense to you? You know, those traumas that we experience are embedded in us. And everybody's trauma level's different. And a man explained it to me like this. When you're a little kid, your little spirit is like a bucket full of wet cement. And when a trauma happens, the enemy comes with a lie, drops that lie in the middle of that wet cement. Because you're just young, you're just a little kid. You don't know. But that over time, over years, that cement dries. But that lie is still in there. And it has a voice. It's alive. And what does that voice do? What does that lie do? It talks to you and tells you lies. Because of an event. Because, see, remember, your personality is formed from an event of the past. That's why today I had so much fun just driving along the lake, walking along the lake. That was a memory. I made a memory today. And so when I get a little bit rattled, do you know where I'm going to go? I'm going to go to that memory that brought me peace, that brought me fellowship, I could stand there and experience the glory of God in His creation. I'm going to go to that place. I like that. So, these are some of the lies. It's your fault. You know, I came from divorced parents. Guess whose fault it was? You're a loser. No one will ever love me. I'm a failure. But you know what? Satan's good at his job. What does he come to do? And where is that? So, when you believe those lies, it becomes a part of your soul or a part of your personality. I'll tell you one of the biggest lies that I ever believed, and it wasn't until about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, the Lord revealed it to me. I was driving down the interstate in my city, and just all of a sudden, boom, it's like, when I was 12 years old, my dad went to Vietnam. And when he came home, he came back through San Francisco. And my dad volunteered to go to Vietnam. He was not in the military. He went as a contractor. Nobody did that in Vietnam, you know, especially someone that has 2 young children and a wife at home, except my alcoholic father. I know now it was a way of escape. he comes, and we didn't have email or text or anything like that back then. That was it was a while ago. I was 12, so that was a long time ago. He had sent us a letter, and he said, okay, when you get to San Francisco, you go straight to the hotel and you do not leave, because it's not a safe place to be out by yourself. So we get to the hotel. It's like in the middle of the night when he finally gets there, and everybody goes to bed, and we get up the next morning, and I can tell you exactly what I was wearing. I can tell you my shoes, because they were go-go boots. I know, really dates me. But it's my dad, my mom, my sister, and I. Now my sister's older than I am. And we were walking down a sidewalk. And the sidewalk was wide enough for 3 people, but not 4. Did you hear what I said? The sidewalk was wide enough for 3 people, but not 4. So it was my father, my mother, and my sister. And me, following behind. And I remember, I can still hear it today. Billie, you don't deserve a family. Billie, you'll never be part of a family. Billie, you deserve to be behind everybody. That was when I was 12 years old. And that lie hardened. Now I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't aware that that lie was there. But when I would get around a family, like they would invite, because I'm single, they would invite me into their homes for Christmas or Thanksgiving. I felt so out of place. I got to where I wouldn't go because I was so uncomfortable. I didn't fit. I didn't belong. This is not my family. So I'm not going. I'm not part of them. So I don't go. And for years, I lived that lie. Until I was going down the highway in my hometown, and God showed me that lie. And I said, what do I do? What do I do with this lie? I know it's a lie. I know it's not true. I know I'm part of the family of God. And it was very plain. The way you silence the voice of the lie is that you tell the truth. Amen. You speak the truth. When I go into Dan and Shannon's home, I'm right there in the middle of them. I'm part of their family. I don't have that thing that says, you don't belong here. Did it happen easily? Absolutely not. The first few times that I tried to get in that place, that lie was still speaking. And what would happen is that I would not be myself in that situation. I would begin to play a role that is not me. It's not who I am. Has anybody else ever done anything like that? Been so out of place that you begin to act like somebody that you know you're not, but it just comes out. Because you believed a lie. I found myself, and now that I know this, as a little kid, I could play any of 3 roles within 60 seconds. I could flip that fast. One of my greatest needs is to feel safe. Even today, I still like to feel very safe. I don't like to be put in situations where I don't feel protected, and I'm sure that still comes from my past. But so if I didn't feel safe, if I would act like somebody I'm not, which is to be just really tough and say, come on, I just dare you. Just come on, cross that line. And try to become that tough predator instead of the sweet little angel that I am. So before I go on, I want you to ask the Lord if there's a lie that you've believed. You know, and we are in a place where we have created the atmosphere of heaven through our worship. So you know how to hear God's voice because you are the sheep of his pastor, and the sheep of his pastor know his voice, and they will not listen to another. So you listen to that voice. And you ask him, God, have I believed a lie? Just take a minute. It'd be a better question to say, what lie have I believed? Because you're on the devil's hit list. Earlier today, I asked Colleen the same question, and the Lord showed her, and I asked her if she'd be willing to share tonight.
I'm trying to decide now. When she first asked me, it's just like, I was just blank. I mean, a lot of stuff have happened in my life, but I just couldn't recall. And so I thought, okay, I need a minute. And then I thought, okay, I need to go and be quiet so I could have these wonderful flood of memories. And as soon as I got up, one came, which I was actually shocked at the one that came to me. So then I have pondered since that moment, maybe I still need to deal with this because I can't believe that's the one that popped up. But and maybe need to look at it even now of how that is maybe still affecting me. But it was when I was trying to think of the age I was. I think I was maybe in 6th or 7th grade. And I had taken a math class, it was in math class, and had taken a test. And, we were handed out our papers after the test, and mine was pretty much a fail. And the math teacher, took my paper in front of the whole class, and he said, if I would have given this test to a group of chimpanzees, they would have done better than her. They would have gotten 50% right. And I had really, obviously I remembered it, and I have remembered it, that it of course, I was young, and it bothered me. It really shamed me. And so, I have had to fight for what I've wanted to learn my whole life. And I don't, it's brought up, maybe I need to even look at it more, that might have been. I know I've dealt with so much. But that was a pretty harsh memory that was put on me, What is the truth? Oh, the truth is that, no, I can actually, I'm a fighter like you. And so, because that was kind of said over me again and again. Like I said, I've been processing this since she asked me this question about 5. And it was said again in nursing school. Yeah. What? Oh, I am. I'm an LPN. But when I applied for nursing schools, because I didn't do real well in certain subjects you need to get into nursing schools, so when I applied, they basically laughed at me and said, well, It's really tough to get in. There's not a lot of, you're going to have to prove you can even do this. And with those grades from high school, that pretty much tells us. So we want you to go back. And I just looked at her and said, I can do anything I put my mind to. And she goes, well, you have to prove that, little lady. So I went to night school for a year and got an A in math. And then they wanted me to work in a nursing home so I would see what I was getting myself into. And out of 500 applicants, the next year when I applied, I was one of 60 who was accepted. Just because they said, anyone who does that really wants to be a nurse.
But see, the lie that she believed could have kept her from her destiny. Which was to care for people. And I love it because when I get sick, I call Colleen. I say, Colleen, this is happening, what's going on with me? And she says, go to the hospital now.
Dr. Colleen.
Dr. Colleen, that's right. So does anybody else have a memory they want to share with us? I gave her a little heads up. I did. I gave her a little heads up. Anybody else want to share?
When I was a teenager, my dad was on prednisone a lot, and it made him a very irrational person at times. And during one of those spells, he was a mechanic, and he had fixed up a Volkswagen Bug for me, and he expected me to take care of it. And one of the things he wanted me to do was check the oil and make sure that there was oil in it. But he had never shown me. I knew there was an oil dipstick. I knew some basics, but I had no idea where to find it in this engine. So I didn't do it. And it was one of his not good nights. And he came home and told me, basically yelled at me for not knowing. And I didn't realize it for years. But one of the things from that incident I took on was, I need to know everything. I have to know it all. And the expectation that people have of me is that I will know.
Wow.
And even in my job at times, I am expected to know things I don't know. And I've gotten better in the last several years. That's one of the things I went through some healing for. I've gotten better at being able to say, I don't know. And I don't have the training. If you tell me where I can get it or where to find it, I will try to learn, or if somebody can teach me. But I've gotten better at saying, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer, and being okay with that. But there are still times and moments when something's wrong and we're in front of the customer and they expect us to know everything, that I will have a lot of anxiety about figuring it out. And I've learned to trust God for the answers when I come to those times. And He's very, very gracious in granting them to me. But it's something that I struggled with for years.
And the truth is, you can't know everything. But what you do know, you know very well. And she knows a lot. Anybody else want to share? Yes, you have to come up here because they're videotaping. And they want to see your pretty face.
When I was a senior in high school, in our choir class, I was taking music theory. And the teacher wanted us to get up. We had to get up in front of the class and sing up the scale and down the scale. Well, when I did that, yeah, and then back down. Well, my voice shook all the way up the scale and all the way down the scale. And the whole class, including the teacher, erupted in laughter. I was a senior in high school. I mean, I wanted to become invisible. I was so embarrassed. Well, then, when I went to college after high school with the idea of being a teacher. And I got through 2 years of college, and I quit because I didn't think I'd be able to get up in front of people. Well, about 10 years down the road, I got born again. And I didn't know at that time what my gift was. I found out down the road a ways that God has called me to be a teacher. And that meant getting up in front of people. Well, at this one church I was at, our pastor's wife taught on the 23rd Psalm, the first part of it, the Lord is my shepherd. And when she finished, she said, next week Sue McKay is going to teach on I shall not want. never gotten up in front of anybody, nothing. The first thought that came to my mind was, God, you must increase and I must decrease. A week later, when I got up to teach, God filled me with his anointing, and I was able to get up there and teach with that anointing without being nervous at all.
That's right. But you see, the lie wants to hold you and keep you from going into the destiny that God has for you. That's the purpose of the lie. And the lie will affect our behavior in such a way that many people, they become addicted to alcohol, to drugs, to sex, to pornography, to you name it, to exercise, because they have to look good. It affects your behavior to that degree when you choose to believe that lie. You silence the voice of the lie by speaking the truth. That's the only thing. And look up Ephesians 2:10, Dan.
For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them.
What are you? Now, I could quote that verse 1,000 times, but I didn't believe it because the lie was more alive than the truth. Did you want to share something? Okay. I knew I was God's masterpiece. I would even stand up and tell people, I am God's masterpiece. I sounded good. I had the spiel down. But I didn't really believe it because I heard the lie loudly. Now the enemy still lies to me today. You want to hear a story? Do you guys like stories? Yeah. Okay, all right, great. In April, I was in Africa. I don't think I even shared this with you. I was in Africa, and I actually went by myself, which I do not recommend anybody do that, but the 3 people that were going to go backed out. Whatever. I forgive them. We had to go from Nairobi to Mombasa. You go the Mombasa Highway. Anybody ever hear that? I challenge you to just Google that sometime. Mombasa Highway. We left early in the morning and we stopped halfway because we decided we were going to do a half-day safari and spend the night at this place and then drive the rest away to Mombasa the next day. So that whole trip was in the daylight, but it was crazy. Because Mombasa is a port city and they have all of these big trucks with these containers off of the ships. You guys are here, you know what that looks like. And they're flying up and down this highway that is about as wide as this aisle. Seriously. And I'm in a van and they're in this big truck. And they're driving on the wrong side of the road because they drive on the left side instead of because it's former British. So that was weird anyway. But Sunday, I did the last service at the church, and I go to this church, and they said, okay, church starts at 9, and we go to 1. Really? 4 hours long? I'm really not a long-winded. Dan could do it. I just run out of my words. So I had done my thing. We had sung the Lord's Prayer. We had prayed the Lord's Prayer. We had rapped to the Lord. Anything I could think of. And there's about 20 little kids back in the back. And they have sat there all day, just precious. So I called the little kids up. This is something Tommy Boatwright taught me to do. And I talked to them, and they were just, dirty little kids. Asked them how old they were. They were malnutritioned. I could tell some of them had been beaten. They were dirty. And I talked to him about being afraid. I said, you know, when you're afraid, all you have to do is call on Jesus to come sit right by you, and he'll sit really close, and he'll hold your hand, and he'll keep you safe. And then I still had them all up there, and I said, is there anybody here sick? And this lady raised her hand. She says, I have a tumor in my belly. So I called her up and, come here, Colleen. And so I'm going to have the kids pray for her, because I know the faith of a kid. So I put my hand on the lady's belly, because I knew what those kids would do. You know, they'd just be all over. And then the kids put their hand on their hand on my hand, which was on her belly, which I could feel this tumor. And all these kids, I mean, they started praying like little firecrackers. I mean, they were just popping it out. And I felt that tumor go. I mean, it was kind of scared me. It was like, wow, that was very cool. So finally, by the time my driver gets there, we have to take people to the airport, we have to pick other people up, blah, blah, blah. It's 4 o'clock by the time we're driving back, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're driving back to Nairobi. This is a minimum 10-hour drive. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going, this is not good. We get to where it's just almost dark. You know, it's kind of that twilight, whatever they call it, dusk time. And this big gnarly thing appears in front of me. And it says, I'm going to kill you tonight. And I go, me being the big, brave woman that I am, born again, spirit-filled, tongue-talking, you know, I'm ready to I'm going, you know, I'm scared. I'm scared. I start praying. I pray in the Spirit. I'm praying in the Spirit out loud. My driver's going, what is it with this woman? But these trucks, when it's dark, maybe they have one headlight, or they have a row of 7 LED lights on the back that totally blinds you as they're coming towards you. They scare the fire out of you. And I'm fearful. I mean, I'm literally fearful. So I had this gnarly thing. If you've ever seen one of those gnarly things come after you, it says, I'm going to kill you. I believed him. So I suddenly remembered what I told those little children. When you're afraid, ask Jesus to come sit by you. So I did. I said, Jesus, come sit by me. I'm scared. I told him, I am scared spitless. That's an Okie thing, if y'all know. I mean, I had prayed so long and in tongues, I was dehydrated, but I did not want to drink water because you don't want to go to the bathroom. And you can't just stop on the side of the road, because we passed 2 elephants right on the side of the road. Seriously, and I'm thinking, there's lions and tigers and bears. Oh no. At one point in the drive, I mean, it was after midnight by this time, and my driver was very good. He was very careful. You know, he would slow down if he saw them coming, or if he could pull off. But, you know, in third world countries, when they have to fix the road, they just put another layer on it. So it might be a 4-foot drop because they've just layered it up. And I saw 2 trucks coming straight at us. And he was not slowing down, and he was not moving over. And I'm ready. I'm thinking, I'm going to die out here, and a lion's going to eat me. So I brace myself, and I just scream, Jesus! Seriously, scared my driver. He goes, what, you know? And I go, and at that moment, we go through the trucks. And we're on the other side. Now, I didn't tell you that story. We literally went through, you remember the story in the Bible, it is written, I promise you, where they wanted to stone Jesus and he just walked through the crowd? That's what I felt. We just walked right through it. And when I got to my room where I was staying, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and my insides were literally quivering. Part of it was because of the bumpy road, but my insides were literally quivering because I knew what that lie was. And it took everything in me, every bit of strength that I had within my spirit and my emotions, because they were fighting each other, to overcome that. And it was a couple of weeks before the Lord really showed me what happened. When I could get everything settled, I was actually home when the Lord showed me that at that moment, where you remember in John 17, Jesus prayed and he said, "Let them be one as you and I are one," that they may. At that moment, me and Jesus were one. Just like when he walked through that crowd, and he and his Father were one, me and him were one. I've never experienced anything like that before. I don't want to have to experience that again to know that's for real. I don't want you to have to experience that to know that you can have that today. You don't have to become so frightened that you're paralyzed to know that you and he can be one. But you have to silence the voice of that lie. And I'm sure when I cried out the name of Jesus, he came in all his glory. But if we don't come to that place of knowing that truth, we will play a role. And you can say, "I'm God's masterpiece," all you want to. You will play one of 3 roles. You're going to want to write these down. You will become a predator, a victim, or a rescuer. A predator, a victim, or a rescuer. Don't those sound like good roles to play? Now remember, as a kid, and I can still do this today when I get really messed up. I can play any one of those 3 roles in 30 seconds. And it's all because I have a need that's not being met, and I don't know how to ask for that need to be met. See, I didn't know how to ask for those people to keep me safe in Africa. See, I went by myself, but I met some people and we became a team, and they flew back to Nairobi. I didn't know how to ask. Can I fly back with you? Rather than driving back by myself at night. I didn't know how to ask. So my need wasn't met. And the enemy goes, "Oh, perfect opportunity." Because he knows my need is to feel safe. Because my dad would take me to the bar, and then when it get too rough in the bar, he'd make me go out in the car and lay me in the back seat and put a blanket over me. Like that was going to keep me safe. Well, I was always afraid. So the enemy knows that about me. You think the enemy doesn't know those things about you? Oh yeah. Better than you. Better than you. But if you learn how to ask for your needs to be met, first you have to identify, what do I need? I know Colleen well enough to know when she's talking to me, she needs my attention. And I can try to ignore her. But she needs that. I know that. Another need I have is I like people to touch me. I like affection. I have a list of needs, actually. Let me see if I can find them. Yeah, here they are. And these are my needs. I need to be accepted. And some of these are basic needs that I believe all of us have. Acceptance, affection, affirmation. Good job, Billie. Appreciation, attention, comfort, companionship, compliments, encouragement, freedom, love. I need to play. I get to play today. I told Shannon, I don't get to play like this when I go places. This is fun. I'll come back. I need to know that there's a purpose. I need to know that I'm serving a purpose. I need praise, relaxation, respect, rest, security, sense of independence. I need space. Today, I asked for space. I said, I'm going to my room to work on my lesson. I needed space, but I asked for it. I knew how to ask for it. And it was honored. Hope, support, to be cared for, to be important. Now you may think, well, those are kind of pious. Those are needs. You know, and God created us with needs. But, you know, we are Americans. And I pull myself up by my own bootstraps. I don't need you. Boys are taught that. Boys are taught that. I was taught that. Boys are taught it even more. You just buck up, bucko. Suck it up. Instead of saying, I need. Now, I know that I could go to Dan and say, I need something, and he would do everything in his power to help me. But will I go to Dan and say, I need? Dan, I've done everything I know to do, but this is what I need from you. Can you help me? But will we? Because we're taught it's a sign of weakness to have a need. If we didn't need God, we'd never ask God for the gift of salvation. He gave us those needs. So what's your need? Do you need to feel safe like me? If I don't feel safe, I can become that predator. If I don't feel safe, I can become that victim. Poor me. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, the big violin. Nobody loves me. They just leave me out here all by myself in Africa to drive in this van where these lions are going to eat me after that elephant stomps on my head. That's a choice we have if we don't silence the voice of the lie. So, what need do you have? Somebody tell me. Come on. If you want to be strong, you have to show your weakness. God will take your weakness and make it your greatest strength. If you're just strong, well, you're where you're going. God's not done with me yet. You know, when I was in 4th grade, I had to give an oral book report. And I was probably unprepared, but nonetheless, I stood there and my voice quivered. And my knees knocked and my hands shook. And I said, I will never, ever, ever do that again. Do you know what I do today? I give an oral book report. That's all I do. I give an oral book report on the Bible. my opinion of the Bible. But I had to come past that because we make vows like that and it hinders us from reaching our destiny. So what's your weakness? Just shout it out. Affection? Need affection. Okay? Somebody else? Time. You need my time. Yes, that's true. I will agree with that. Did you hear that? She needs time. For the tape, Dan said he needs space.
What makes you think I meant that towards you?
Okay, somebody else. Somebody else. To be loved? Sorry? To be understood. Okay. Somebody else? The rest of you are all set, right? Yeah. I could pull myself up by my own bootstraps. That's okay. That's all right. But by the time we get done, you'll know. Okay. I'm going to read to you out of John 8:32 out of the Message Bible. John 8:32 for those of you that are speed looker-uppers. If you stick with this, living out what I tell you, you are my disciples for sure. Then you will experience yourself the truth. And the truth will set you free. Denial will kill you. I work with alcoholics and drug addicts. And I tell them, you know, it's not the alcohol, it's not the drugs that's going to kill you. It's the denial that you got an issue that's going to kill you. I don't have a problem, really. You can't stand up. You can't remember what you did last night. You don't have a problem? Denial will keep you in bondage. Denial will keep that bag connected to your back, and eventually it'll pull you down. So I challenge you tonight to make a list of your needs. Love. I need love. I need to be understood. I need affection. I need people to pay attention to me. Dan needs space. Shannon needs time. We will pray for them before we leave on Sunday. But I really challenge you to ask the Lord, what are my needs? Because those needs that are not met will affect your behavior. And your behavior as a wife is affected. Your behavior as a husband is affected. Your behavior as a person of leadership is affected. Your behavior as a parent is affected. You watch your children. They act out to get a need met. When they throw themselves on the floor and throw a little temper tantrum, it's because they want something and they don't know how to ask. It affects our behavior as adults. So we're not gonna do all of this tonight because I want you to think about this. But let me just go through some of the not the needs, but the attributes of a persecutor. Just really fast. This is kind of skipping to the middle. Now, this is a persecutor described. A tormentor. An abuser. A bully. Somebody that picks fights. somebody that intimidates you or tries to control you through their intimidation. A persecutor is someone that does not think about others' needs. It's all about them. They're very insensitive. A persecutor can have a very explosive personality. And we're actually going to give you a list of these, I believe, aren't we? Aren't we, Jen? Yeah, we are. They take from others. Their goal in life is to destroy. Not to build up, but to destroy. They're ruthless. Their anger rules, and it's acceptable. And you know, in some families, anger is the only emotion that's accepted. That's the only emotion that is accepted. They condemn others. They always find faults with other people. They're very self-reliant. I don't need you. I got this. I got it. It's not a big deal. They don't think anyone can do it better than themselves. They associate with people who do not express emotional or personal needs. They dislike needy people. They apologize but never change their behavior. Think about people in abusive relationships. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll never hit you again, I promise. And what do? They hit them again. They put people down. They tell people how ignorant they are. They tell people they are incompetent. I would call terrorist persecutors, predators. They invade other people's privacy. That's what he did with me this morning. They do not let others come close to them. They may do this. This is my favorite thing. They believe they deserve to be close to a person at any time they want to. That they want to be close. Outwardly, they appear to be confident and secure, but privately and inwardly, they are insecure and fearful. Because see, when I play that predator role, that's me to a T. I'm trying to act really, really tough, but I'm really afraid. They push down any sign of weakness and vulnerability in their lives. This is what most of us turn to when we're afraid. We come out fighting. But remember, the fear is developed because we haven't come to a place to say, I need something. If your wife or your friend or your husband starts acting a little off and you know that's not who they are, they're playing a role that is not them, simply go up and say, honey, what do you need? What can I help you with? It's amazing how that diffuses that role and brings them back to a place where their spirit is in line with the light of God and the darkness has to flee. How many of you like confrontation? Two of us in the whole room like confrontation. Do you know what confrontation is? Working through issues. Telling people the truth. What did Shannon say about me? She knew if she wanted the truth, she came to me. Sometimes she didn't like the truth, but she knew I would speak the truth. So when you confront somebody by saying, I'm sorry, what do you need? What can I do to help you? The truth will set them. Wouldn't life be just altogether different if we all lived our life like that? Is that not what Jesus did? Do you ever wonder why we don't have signs, wonders, and miracles happening every day? Why did I have to go all the way to Africa to feel that tumor disappear? I've never felt that before in my life. Maybe it's because our emotions are so in line with the darkness that we can't walk into the light even with our spirit, because we're over here trying to figure out what it is that we want or we need, and we're playing in this role and not really walking in the destiny that God gave us because we're living a lie. Maybe, it might be true. I'm not saying it is, it just might be. Suppressing our needs causes us to open the door to ungodly influences. I said that kindly. Suppressing our needs causes us to open the door to ungodly influences. It affects our behavior and sets us into an ungodly pattern to get our needs met. You know the result of that? It's a greater level of dysfunction. Have you seen dysfunction breed dysfunction? And you're going, oh dear. What is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. How many of us have lived in insanity? I know it didn't work, but maybe it'll work this time. Maybe my intimidation will work this time, and manipulation will work, and they'll change their mind. Maybe. And we get stuck there. And all that does is cause greater dysfunction in our life, and we actually become more fragmented because God's still calling us. And it's not that you're going to die and go to hell, okay? That's not what this is about. This is about walking out the destiny that God has for you, and your spirit and your soul being in line with one another, and you're walking in the light of God instead of back and forth and back and forth, and we're just insane. Because we think it's going to work this time, and it never does. So has anybody thought about a need they have yet? Not yet, huh? Okay. In order to get our needs met, we will play ungodly roles. If one role does not work, we will swiftly shift to another. And if that role doesn't work, we'll just go to the next one. If you are walking in these roles, you will not reach your God-given destiny. And when we deny our needs, if you're sitting there and saying, I don't have any needs, I can't think of any needs. If you are denying your needs, it will cause you to become very self-sufficient, self-reliant, and insensitive to other people's and their needs. Well, if I can do it, they can do it. Suck it up. Buck up, bucko. And we become that person that we don't like. Now, if you go in the total opposite way, where you are so needy, then you become a royal pain to everybody and selfish, demanding. But if we condemn our needs, we become frustrated, angry, and feel inferior. That's when you become the victim. And we just believe that nobody likes us. The truth is, all of this is unhealthy. It's an unhealthy approach to get your need met. And remember, God gave you needs. If you didn't have a need, you'd never need Him. but we get caught in a very ungodly cycle. And the only way to break a cycle is to sing a new song. Have you ever woke up early in the morning and you have a song going on in your brain and it just won't go away, and it can be something as silly as Three Blind Mice or whatever, and it won't go away? The way you stop that song from going is that you sing a different song. And it breaks it. It breaks it that fast. So you sing a new song. So if you're stuck in this cycle of victim, predator, rescuer, then you sing a new song. You make a decision. I'm going to shift. I'm going to shift into something different. I'm going to become something new. I'm not going to be this victim that goes around whining and just feeling sorry for myself, and I'm a worm and everybody's going to eat me and nobody loves me, and if it's going to happen, it happens to me. If there was any luck, what's Murphy's Law? Yeah. I mean, talk about a victim. And it's strong in any part of our nation today. It's strong. You either got the victim or you got the predator. And let me just read you some of the victim stuff. I want you to think about this tonight. Victims suffer in silence. Do you know that silence is a weapon? You would not understand this. Silence for a victim, silence is a great weapon, and I can use it. I know how to use it. Because as a gold star victim, I know how to push the button of a predator. Just don't say anything. Just don't say anything. They will deny any form of power or being or strength or inner being. They need someone strong and powerful around them all the time. They fear failure. They fear success. You know, I used to be afraid of being successful because what would I do with success? What would I do if I had a lot of money? So I feared it. A victim always thinks they're being victimized. They always feel dishonored. Well, they just didn't honor me. They do not honor themselves. They never get good service when they go into a restaurant. You know, have you ever gone out with a group of people, like when you go out after church or something, and one person, every time their meal is wrong, or it's cooked wrong, or they go up to check out and that's when the tape runs out or something? They attract it. I mean, they create that atmosphere around them of being a victim, and it just goes, it's a spiritual dynamic. They need to suffer. They always feel they're being taken advantage of. They're wounded people. They're helpless people. They want you to know they suffer more than anybody else. They feel guilty for other people suffering. They need to do something by themselves because they feel no one is helping them. They demand special attention and care. These people will quit on you. They will abandon you. They are not safe people. They always look like they've been persecuted. That was me. I knew what shoes I had on, and people knew the top of my head. But I looked like a persecuted person. I had long hair, and I always kept my hair around my face so nobody could see me. They put other people's needs above their own. They look for a persecutor, and they're good at finding one. They expect others to make them happy. They overreact in uncontrollable situations or people. That's what I kind of did in the van going back to Nairobi. Use self-pity or anger to control others. Why me? Why? Others say or simply imply me. Poor me. Poor me. They say something bad always happens to me. They often say, I don't know. I don't have an opinion. Oh, that drives me crazy. That will cause me to become a predator. I know you have an opinion. I know you know something. Just say something. Where do you want to eat? I don't care. What do you want? I don't know. Do you have a preference? No. It's like, come on. But see, they're so afraid that they'll offend you or make the wrong decision. And then if they don't like where you take them, then they can say, well, I didn't really want to eat here anyway. That's just sick. Bing, bing, light bulb. When asked to do something, they'll say, well, I'll try. You know, that's setting yourself up for failure. That's setting yourself, when you say, I'll try, setting yourself up for failure every time. They never commit. They're always afraid of both success and failure. Well, the funny thing about a predator and a victim is that they can walk into a crowded room, and I don't care whether it's a church function, a business function, in a ballroom, in a bar, I don't care. These two people can walk in opposite doors, and the room's full of people, shoulder to shoulder, and they'll find each other like magnets. Because the victim needs the predator to be the victim. And the predator needs the victim to pick on. So they just go, you know? I watch this with couples all the time. They'll come to me and say, well, we really like each other. Yeah, well, you're a victim, you're a predator. You don't belong together till you get this stuff taken care of. But they'll find each other. They're magnets for each other. And then the final one in this little triangle, and I'll try to remember tomorrow to bring my flash drive that I can put this on the thing. But do I have the triangle? I don't have the triangle on there. Yeah, I don't have the triangle. Okay, and then you have the rescuer. Now, these are all roles that you play one of them, and I know you do. You may sit there and just act like you're just a little angel, but I know different.
I'm sitting in the back tomorrow.
I know different. I can walk back there. It's not that far. A rescuer is described as saviors. They save people. They are so busy fixing you that they avoid fixing their own problems. In other words, they walk in a lot of denial. Some of you are really laughing at that one. They are always comfortable in a support position. They are the knight in shining armor. Dun, 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 dun. Here he comes to save the day. Mighty Mouse. The liberators. They thrive on being needed. They support destructive behaviors. Because if you're living a destructive life, I can run in and rescue you. But if you're healthy and you choose to cut this baggage off, what am I going to do? They keep victims attached to them. They train people to be victims. They feel responsible for victims' behavior, but they do not take responsibility for their own issues. They focus on others' feelings until they have no grip on their own feelings. They maintain chaotic situations. Now, I can be a rescuer. I don't know if you've ever heard of a crisis intercessor, but a crisis intercessor loves to pray in the middle of a crisis because they like to see instant things happen, things changed and shifted. And well, because my whole life growing up was chaos and crisis after another, that's where I feel most comfortable. So if there's not one, I might just create one. Then I can run in and rescue. Lord have mercy. He did. He did have mercy. But you think about that. If everything's going fine, we think something's wrong, so we'll do something, pardon the expression, really stupid to create a crisis because we're more comfortable in it. Maybe. They endure explosive anger. They give a lot of... I'm going to say this with a straight face. They give a lot of unnecessary advice. They say, I can save you. They say, I can do this for you. Leave it alone. I'll do this. You just go play. I'll do this for you. Are you okay? Dan, are you okay? Can I do something for you? Let me fix something for you. All right. They cannot operate without a victim. The rescuer cannot operate without a victim. They have to have somebody to rescue. They cannot rescue a persecutor, so they have to find a victim. They become jealous of the victim having other relationships. The rescuer feels as though their value comes from fulfilling the needs of victims. So rather than point them to a working relationship with God or other people, to hear God, the rescuer hears God for you. Because they don't want you to have that relationship with God, because then you would get healthy and begin to walk in the light. And I like this little analogy. Those of you that are mothers and have had children that you have told and told and told, go clean your room. Dan, go clean your room. Go clean your room. Eventually, the kid goes out, mom goes cleans the room. Rescuer. It's a pattern we've all been set up in. The enemy set us up in this pattern. And it's a very, very unhealthy, ungodly cycle of life that needs to stop. And that's where we're going to stop tonight. Because tomorrow we're going to talk about moving from that place into the godly place. There is a godly triangle. And that's where we want to go tomorrow. Okay, do you have any questions about what I talked about tonight? Yes? They don't like each other. And if you think of a triangle, and you have the predator up here, and you have the rescuer over here, and you have the victim over here, who's in charge? The predator? The victim's in charge. Because the victim's getting their need met by the predator, and the victim's getting their need met by the rescuer. The victim is in charge. Even though they seem the weakest, they're in charge. So if you see me walking around like this, run the other way. Okay, this is a good question. Anybody else? Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Dan will close us.